Okay, so I'm doing a little something different with the live stream today. I usually do content breakdowns, but I just took a trip to Japan and I realized I've been to Japan now 7 times over the last 20 years and done a couple motorcycle rides there. And I get a lot of people asking me about traveling in Japan and riding in Japan. And there seems to be a hesitancy around traveling in Japan that I don't see in a lot of other countries, especially among Americans. So the point of this live stream is just to talk through my knowledge of traveling in Japan, especially by motorcycle. I'm going to go through what you need to know to have a great trip in Japan, some tips from locals, some things you may not know about that I've learned over my many years traveling there. So whether you're going by motorcycle or you want to go by train or you want to rent a car, this will all be relevant because, like I said, I've been there 7 times over the last 20 years. So I've experienced Japan in multiple different ways. The first thing that I want to say about Japan, just traveling there in general, Japan is super safe. It's really clean, and there is something for everyone. Whether you want to party all night in Tokyo, or you want to take your kids to a Buddhist temple and meditate all day, there is everything for everyone and everything in between. There's stuff for foodies, there's stuff for hikers, there's stuff for riders. And a lot of people I see are hesitant about the language. It is good to know that in Japan, the English, like the percentage of people that can speak English or speak it confidently, is very low. But that said, you can get by with Google Translate. Like, I don't speak any Japanese and I've been fine there traveling. So you can use Google Translate, it works decently well. Another thing to note that has really put Japan on the map lately is it is not very expensive. Like the average hotel in Japan, I feel like I spend $50 to $100 a night, especially outside of major cities. Like if you're staying in Tokyo, you're gonna spend $100 a night plus just to stay inside Tokyo in the downtown area. But if you're in like smaller cities, outside of Kobe, outside of, this is Osaka and Kyoto, I have so many pins you can't even see it. But if you're staying like outside of these areas, you're going to pay a little bit less. If you're staying in Kyoto, Osaka, Tokyo, but really Tokyo, you're going to spend like 100 plus a night, $100. And food is also pretty cheap. Like you can eat for $5-10 a day in Japan. It's not super expensive, but it's high quality. You can find every type of food. There's a lot of depth within Japanese food itself, so you can find all kinds of different Japanese food, and it's really not that bad. Now, if you want to spend $500 on dinner, you can do that, and you can get like super high-end food. So they really have everything, the full range of prices and budgets. One thing I will say about the cities is definitely Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, they're very cool, they're very fun, there's a lot to do and a lot to see. But what I want to focus on a little bit more in this video is the hidden Japan, like outside of these main touristy areas. I just went on a trip with MotoToursJapan, which if you can see it, I'm wearing their shirt. So MotoToursJapan, they are basically it when it comes to motorcycle tours in Japan. They run tons of tours all over different regions of Japan. They have self-guided tours, guided tours. They are also in the same group that owns Rental 819, which is a massive rental agency. They have like 100 plus branches, I think, all over Japan. And you can translate the website, but they have all types of bikes, from giant Harleys down to smaller bikes, 400s, 900s. They have scooters. They have 125s and Honda Monkeys and things. So they have everything that you would want to rent for a motorcycle ride. And I have used Rental 819 since the first time I ever rode in Japan. I love them. My first experience with MotoToursJapan was really good. We did a trip that was planned in partnership with JTB, Japan Travel Bureau, which I think is the biggest Japanese travel company. And so part of the thesis around this trip was they want to give tourists more options to get outside of the big cities, because Kyoto, Osaka, and Tokyo are really busy with tourists nowadays. So they're trying to develop these motorcycle tours to take people to kind of off the beaten path places. So we went to Tottori, we went to this Matsu in Shimane. We went to Okayama Prefecture, we stayed there 2 nights, went to Hiroshima, Yamaguchi, and then we ended up in Fukuoka, and we took the Shinkansen, the high-speed rail train, all the way back. Fun fact, it took us, I think, 7 days to ride all the way to Fukuoka, and it took us 2.5 hours to get back to Osaka on the bullet train. That's how fast the bullet train is, and that's called the Shinkansen. So I love taking the Shinkansen as well as riding, but that is a little bit about the ride that we did. I will get into some specific routes in a little bit. I want to show you a couple routes that I've taken, mostly around this area as well as around Izu too, which is this little peninsula here. But I want to just talk about motorcycling in Japan in general really fast. So if you're a rider, I've written a couple guides here, or one rental guide and then one ride report that was from my 2024 ride where I was basing out of Kyoto and doing day rides. And kind of the things that I said earlier, there are really beautiful small towns. It's very safe. The drivers are very safe. These are big pros to riding in Japan. And for riders, there are endless twisty and well-maintained roads. Like really, Japan is basically a giant mountain popping out of the sea. So you have seaside and you have mountains, and there's very little flat ground unless you're way up in Hokkaido. Hokkaido has more flat ground and straight roads, but most of Japan is just all twisties. Now, if you need to get somewhere quick, there's a really good highway network that's pretty straight and kind of boring to ride, but there's tons of these small little roads snaking through small towns and stuff. And that's what makes riding in Japan, to me, really, really special. I will go through a couple cons as well. The speed limits are pretty slow, though in my experience, they don't seem to be really respected. So not giving you advice there, but just telling you what the reality is on the ground. The roads are also very narrow. So like if you're used to riding a big Harley on Texas roads where you can see for miles in every direction, don't expect that. You're going to have very small, narrow roads winding through the mountains. So it can be challenging for some riders, but for me, it's extremely fun. And also the drivers. The drivers are sometimes very slow, very safe when you want to pass them or do something. They're not necessarily looking out for motorcyclists. But if you're coming from like a Western country, you're probably used to this. I ride every day in Thailand where there are way more bikes than there are cars. So the cars, to me, in Japan, they don't look out for motorcycles as much as they do in Thailand. But again, if you're coming from a Western country, they might be looking out even more than you're used to. So before I get into more details about that ride, I want to talk about rentals. So renting in Japan is super, super easy. There's just a couple things you need to know. Like I said about Rental 819, there are shops everywhere. So it's very easy to rent from Rental 819. They have helmets at every shop. And sometimes they have other gear like gloves and jackets for rental just for a small cost. And they have like phone holders and other little things, boxes, top boxes and stuff that you would want for longer trips if you're going to do like a multi-city trip. So they have everything from every budget and every type of rider. They allow for online reservations with no money down, which is really cool, up to 4 months in advance. And because it's Japan, they let you cancel 1 day before pickup. So you can make a reservation way ahead of time and then decide, I don't want to ride. Just make the reservation and hold it and go on the ride. It's very fun. But I think they do this because weather in Japan is so fickle. You could plan your trip and then show up and, it's going to be raining for the next week. I don't want to ride. You can cancel. So that's cool. The rental process is super, super easy. The one thing you need to have is a 1949 convention international driver's permit, which is like this little booklet. International driver's permit. I'll pull it up. It's just a little booklet It has to be the 49 one. There are other ones. This because I'm in Thailand, it's showing you Thailand ones. There's a 1969 one. You do not want that. That one will not work. And they do check all of this when you pick up the rental. Just make sure you have this and then your driver's license that's good for motorcycles. Make sure when you get this, they stamp it for motorcycles. And you can get this in the US at any AAA location. I don't know about other countries, but I'm pretty sure it's like either a government or a AAA type of body that usually sells these or makes them. And I think the fee is like $20 in the US now. You just walk into a AAA, you show them your motorcycle license, they make this for you, they stamp it, put your picture in it, you're good to go. So make sure that you have that because they will not rent to you unless you have that. What else? English proficiency is a big one. I get a lot of questions on our website about this, like, hey, I can't communicate with them. Go and email inquiry@rental819. They have English speaking staff. I've gone back and forth with them a bunch, and they're kind of the general overarching support team, so to speak, for Rental 819 because each individual shop is a franchisee. So not all of them are managed by Rental 819, the mother company, but the support at the mother company can help you with English speaking support. So just reach out to them. Oh yeah, to mention about helmets. Best to bring your own helmet if you can, put it in a helmet bag and carry it on the plane and take it to Japan because the helmet's sizing actually in Asia is different, or the helmet shape is different from the West. So when you buy a helmet in the West, it's going to have generally a longer head shape because Western people just have it's longer front to back than side to side. But Asian people, they have more of a round head usually. So the helmets made for the Asian market are usually more round head fit. And I found this with renting helmets. It's usually it pushes on the front and back and it's loose on the right and left because of that difference in sizing. So keep that in mind. You may want to bring your own helmet. But if you're in a pinch and you want to get a scooter to get around, you don't want to bring your helmet, it's up to you. You make your own safety decisions on that. But something good to know. Okay, so that's rentals. Tours with MTJ, I'll leave it to you to look through their website, but they have a bunch of different guided tours, self-guided tours. They can do customized tours with groups. This group that owns MotoToursJapan, they own Rental 819. They also own all the Ducati dealerships in Japan. So they are very deeply embedded in the motorcycle world. They can do anything motorcycle or tour related that you want. And they're really, really good. I was very impressed with the tour that we went on, with the level of service, the attention to detail, the just customer care that the guides had, and they have translators and everything. So really great company. So that's tours, mountain roads. Yeah, I will get to routes in a second. I want to make one quick note about this little emoji that you see everywhere. So these are onsens. If you don't know what an onsen is, it's basically a hot spring complex. Usually it's a big building, and then sometimes if it's called an onsen, it's supposed to be natural spring water from the bubbling springs that are all over Japan. If it's called a sento, then it's like a city hot spring where they're heating up the water themselves. It's not necessarily natural hot water, but basically the same. They're just public baths. So one thing to note is they are almost always nude. Everyone will be nude, but it's separated men's and women's. I've marked all these because a lot of times there are these beautiful onsen complexes out in the middle of nowhere on these small mountain roads that they have food, they have a place to rest, they have the hot springs. Obviously, it's a very relaxing place. Maybe they don't have any pictures of the actual springs. I've been to this one though. And trust me, when you've been riding all day, or even when you've been riding 2-3 hours, you're tired, you're sore, and soaking in the hot bath is the best thing ever. Like, the ideal motorcycle trip to me is just hopping between onsens, and I'll go through in the routes when I talk about routes later. But I basically did that on the Izu Peninsula. Just ride during the day and go to onsen at night. And it's so relaxing and so nice. So especially for motorcycle riding, look for these onsens like out in the middle of nowhere, because there'll be big complexes that are in between major cities that are out in the countryside, and they're just perfect rest stops. If you've been riding all day, you stop here, you soak for a little while, you get out, and then you go find your hotel or go to your stay or whatever. And this is something that like a lot of other countries that you might be riding in, they don't have this type of thing. Maybe you get some saunas and stuff in Northern Europe, but I love this in Japan. Okay, so that's onsens. Let's talk about routes. So first, I want to talk about the trip that I took in 2024. I based out of Kyoto, and I rented a Yamaha XSR 700 and basically did day trips out of Kyoto. So I was based, actually we stayed in Otsu right next to Kyoto, and I did a bunch of different day trips. So I will pull up a couple links here and just walk you through a couple of the cool roads that I found. I did a ton of research on roads, so this should help you in your planning. One thing to note is whenever I'm looking, really any country, but especially in Japan, whenever I'm looking to ride the bike, I'm always going to Google Maps and doing avoid highways, turning that off. And I tried a bunch of these like Kalimoto and Rever route planner things for motorcycles that allow you to pick how much you want curvy roads and stuff. I didn't find it very helpful, and then it was always like you got to use their app, and their app isn't very good, or the turn-by-turn directions aren't nice. I know Google well. I know that it works on my phone. I know how to ride with the directions and everything. So I just went back to Google. I turn off highways, or at the very least, I will turn off tolls so that you don't get taken on a toll road. But I think the best is just to turn off highways, and then it will take you on these smaller roads. Sometimes you'll end up on a road that is not that fun. Like, actually, I'm trying to remember if this is the one that I was on. I think it is the 161 and 303. Wouldn't recommend this if you're in this area. It's 2 lanes high up with a wall and a divider. You can't pass anyone, and there's a lot of trucks. So I just got stuck going like 50 miles an hour behind a truck. But I think it was here we stopped at this, see if it loads. There's like a forest thing here. Huh. There's these nice trees. Yeah, this tree-lined sequoia thing. Here it is. Yeah, all these beautiful big trees and a cafe and stuff. So we stopped there, and then we took some of these smaller roads, this 533. And then once we got up here to 161, then it was much more fun. Suruga has some like fish markets and stuff, and very small town. I love riding in Japan because you end up in a town like this. Like Suruga doesn't really get any tourists, like foreign tourists. Probably get some Japanese tourists, but not many foreign tourists. So people are just they don't look at you the same. Like they're kind of surprised, like why are you here, and more curious, and want to talk to you or find out like what is your deal because you're not in Tokyo, So that's a cool place to stop. And then this is really awesome. This is like these 5 lakes, and I think it's called Rainbow Line. Yeah, it's way up. You take a gondola, or you drive basically almost all the way up. You park, and then you take a gondola for like 30 seconds. And this gondola thing or chairlift, you take it from the parking up here, and then you have these beautiful views all the way around of all these lakes. That's the chairlift. Of all these lakes, there's a hot bath, of course. There's a foot bath up there, so you can stick your feet in and look at the beautiful scenery. They have like ice cream and a cafe and a bit of food up there. So that's a really cool place to stop to break up the ride. Oh, no. Oh man, we lost it. Let me load that again. So that's a good place just to chill out, and it's kind of the midpoint of the ride. In the way back, these roads are amazing. This is some of my favorite riding that I've done in Japan. 27 to 303 to 367. There's a lookout point up here at Mount Hai or Mount Hay. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. Yeah, here. These roads are just incredible little switchbacks. Before then is more broad turns where you can hit it with a little bit more speed, and then you hit all these switchbacks. Stop here. Really nice place for sunset as well, because you get sunset over the city of Kyoto, and then you can drop back into wherever you're staying in Kyoto or nearby. So that loop I think took me about 4 or 5 hours of riding time. This is another loop that's a bit shorter. You can start it from Kyoto as well. I was starting it from my hotel here in Otsu. Stop at this castle is pretty nice. Beautiful scenic old castle. That onsen that I mentioned is somewhere in here. There it is. So you could also stop at that onsen. This valley is really beautiful. I stopped here because a friend of mine is well connected in the tea world, and it's an organic tea plantation valley, and we got to meet some of the tea farmers and stuff. So this is really beautiful little place. If you're super into tea, that's a good place to stop. They have a big shop where they sell their tea and different like soba noodles made with their tea and things. And these roads in here, this one as well as this one from Otsu that follows the Uji River and then comes out at Uji. This was one of my favorite rides. Like, so scenic and beautiful. You're in this valley with the river next to you. Nice curves all the way through. And Uji is also a really cool place if you're into tea. That's kind of like the Kyoto tea spot where all the matcha people and tea people like to go. Nara is pretty cool too. Nara has like some temples, very famous for the deer. There's wild deer in Nara Park that you can, I don't think you can feed, but you can walk up to them and, you know, they're not too aggressive. I've had them like nip at me if I had food, but that's kind of a cool place to go. So that's the little southeast loop, and then there's an eastern loop that I did as well. This one, I think it's seasonal. Like right now, it seems like it's working, but I had trouble planning this because I think in Japan in the winters they close certain mountain passes and they only have the highway open that has like a tunnel or something. Similar to in Europe, I think they do that as well. They close these mountain passes in the winter because it's too dangerous. So if you're like planning this in the winter, Google Maps will say, no, you can't go that way. But I was looking for these two passes. One is called Suzuka and one is called Kurakake. Suzuka is this 477 and Kurakake is 306. Those were like the must-dos that I was finding on forums and of people who've like lived in Japan for 30 years. These are the legendary routes. So this little loop covers the whole thing. Actually, now I'm thinking I should put these in the description of this video. Rides from Kyoto. So that is that little loop. Not so many points of interest here. It's just amazing riding. And if you wanted to break it up into 2 days, you could also ride over to Nagoya. Nagoya is a big city in Japan, but not very touristy. I think they have an F1 circuit, and sometimes they do races there. So if you wanted to ride to Nagoya or maybe see the F1 circuit or some, they might have a Honda museum there or something too. There's also, of course, there's an onsen. So you could ride to that onsen, chill, and then ride back on the other really cool mountain pass. So that's a couple routes around Kyoto and some information about the mountain passes. Now I will talk a little bit about the Izu Peninsula trip that I did in 2019, and then I'll talk about the trip that I just did from Kyoto to Fukuoka in the south. So when I was young and dumb, I rented a bike in Tokyo, a 125 Honda Click, and rode it all the way around the Izu Peninsula and to Shizuoka. It took about, I think, 6 days. And basically from Tokyo to here, it's just city. Like, you're not really going to see anything different. And there's a train line that follows it. But then once you get to the Izu Peninsula, so this peninsula for Japan itself, geologically, this peninsula is very new. Like it's only like 1 million years old, which sounds extremely old, but for a landmass, it's not old. So that all means there's tons of onsens on this little peninsula. And because the Shinkansen, the high-speed rail, it goes past here, and Mount Fuji is also right here, so you get to see it on the ride. Not a lot of tourists ever go here. Like maybe Japanese tourists, I saw a lot of Japanese tourists, but again, it was a place where when I was there, it was two young white dudes, and people were looking at us like, not in a sketchy way, but looking at us like, what are you doing here? Why did you come here? And leads to some interesting conversations. So I will point out a couple interesting places here. Ito is a nice little seaside town. I think it's a surf town in certain seasons. I stayed at Kay's house, really, really nice. It's like on the canal in Ito. It's a hostel, but you can get private rooms. And then there's a couple onsens in here if I can find them. There's one that is kind of nestled in a valley that has a waterfall. Might be this one. Where are you? Cabin rental? No. Anyway, if I can find it, I will find it. But it's somewhere in this area, like from Ito down. Could be this far south, but I think it's more in here. And it is basically an onsen outside cut into the rock in a valley with a giant waterfall behind you. So you get the views of this beautiful waterfall, and then you also get, gosh, I gotta find it. Yes, it could be this. No, this is one way up on the hill. Gosh, this is gonna bother me now. I wish I could find this and show it to you. So it has the cold bath effect of the giant waterfall and the river that comes out of that, but then it has really nice, there it is, duh. It has really nice onsen as well, cut into the rock. I don't know why these never work. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so that's the hotel, that's the waterfall. So you have this massive waterfall and then these hot spring pools next to it. That's a good visualization of it. So you have this big waterfall in this beautiful quiet valley, and then here there's a little shop and there's all these hot springs underneath there. So you can chill in the hot springs. And this is not a separated or nude onsen because it's outdoor. So men and women are together, you're just in a bathing suit, and you can go swim in the river, you can go in the onsen, and it's a hotel too. So that's a really nice stop point. And all these roads in Izu, like you're carving along the coast. As you can see, super windy everywhere, just beautiful, beautiful roads. And then this one as well. So this one's super small. There's a men's side and a women's side, just two small baths. But you are way up on the cliffs with a beautiful view out to this island and the ocean. So you kind of walk up there to the spot. Yeah, and then you can see along the whole cliffs of the coast of Japan. Just gorgeous onsen. So that's a good one to stop at too. And then we just rode around this way. This part of the ride's not that interesting. But if you go to Fuji, you could go to like one of these small towns. There's some lakes back here in small towns. I've been here to Fuji Kawaguchiko. It's a mouthful. There's a theme park here that is actually worth going to called Fuji Q Highland that you don't have to pay to enter, you pay per ride, and they have some really cool roller coasters, and it is in view of Mount Fuji. So really, really cool. So if you want to ride out that way, Fuji Q is cool. And there's some nice roads back in there. And then the ride that I just did, so we started in Kyoto and we rode north this way to Tottori, and then we rode Tottori to Matsui, and in here, the first 2 days, because we were just trying to get to these places, we did a lot of highway. So what I would say is like, I don't know the exact route to take, but just look at the map. Any route is fine. So find the points of interest that you want to see or the onsens you want to stop at and just make the route your own. Tottori was cool. There's some sand dunes there and some interesting things to see. There's also some artist who, I can't remember what the thing is called, but he made some kind of character and that became really famous in Tottori. And then this is the oldest Shinto shrine, I think, with the biggest rope. It's maybe not that one, but it's on a different one. Yeah, this rope weighs 5 tons. So kind of cool to see. You can get a guide there to walk you through and ask questions about the shrine. But this is a very important site for Japanese people. It seems like a lot of Japanese come there. And then this ride from this Izumo city to Okayama was incredible. We took back roads. I don't know exactly what roads, I don't have the route, but again, I think if you just Google Maps between the two places, you'll hit some nice roads. We stopped at this small town here, I believe. Yeah, this town. This town was very cool, very quiet, but had really good coffee shop. Randomly, like super cool with great coffee and drinks. And is known for making sake. There's like a really old sake distillery here, so cool stuff in that little town. I think that town is called Maniwa City, or Katsuyama Preserved Streets. Yeah, all the buildings are very old and preserved. They're like several hundred years old and still look like they did back then. Then we rode to Okayama. We stayed at Kurashiki, nice town with a nice old walking corridor area with canal. Highly recommend this area. I won't go too deep into it right now because stream is getting pretty long, but really nice stuff here. We stayed at this Royal Art Hotel, which I really liked. It's a good hotel. And the city streets here, it's called Kurashiki Bikan Historical Quarter. Really, really beautiful, especially when the cherry blossoms come out. So that's a cool place to stay. That is also accessible by Shinkansen. If you get off at the Okayama Shinkansen station, the high-speed rail, you can take another train and get right into the heart of Kurashiki right here. Then we rode down the coast a little bit to Hiroshima. We took highway again here, so it wasn't all that interesting. But like I've been saying the whole time, if you just turn off highways on your route planning, you'll get some good roads. Hiroshima is really cool, really vibrant city, obviously known for the nuclear bomb, and they have a really extremely depressing museum, but if you're going to go through here, you should go to the museum. It is very moving. As you can see, it's rough to get through, but it's important to see, I think. Very interesting history. There's a beautiful castle here. They're known for okonomiyaki, which is like a pancake. So you can find really good okonomiyaki. It's not like a sweet pancake. It's made of cabbage or something. You can find okonomiyaki restaurants in Hiroshima, many of them. We also went to Itsukushima. It was my second time on this island. Is it this one? Yeah, it's this one. So there's a little ferry that'll take you over here. There's a lot of really good hiking here. It's also called Miyajima. I don't know what the actual name is, but we were calling it Miyajima, and first time I went there, my fiance called it Miyajima. So this island's really cool. There's this gate that it's famous for. I read up on this gate a little bit, and these gates are basically to purify the spirit when you're entering a holy place. And some Japanese lore was developed over some time that the leaders and the emperor believed that this island was really not haunted, but there were a lot of spirits and gods that lived on this island. So they built the gate in the sea as to not dirty the soil and the land of the island itself. And pilgrims who were going to Hiroshima, or like diplomats, emissaries, traders, they would come to Miyajima first and pass through the gate to purify themselves, go to the island and do some rites or some rituals or whatever to get good favor, and then they'd keep going on to Hiroshima. So very historical island, really beautiful. Also a lot of wild deer here that are pretty cool. So that's a cool place to stop. And then we rode some really nice roads we stayed at Miyajima actually, from here out to this town, which is technically in Yamaguchi Prefecture. It's called Shimonoseki. And I'll try to show you just with my mouse generally where we went. We took the highway a little bit to around like Waki, got off there, it was about an hour, and then we took these mountain roads, like roughly this. We took it into the city of Yamaguchi. We went to this temple that was really beautiful, good little stop. So we took some of these lower mountain roads. Incredible. This was probably the best riding of this trip. And then after that, we took the highway and just blasted in to this little town. This town was cool, Shimonoseki, or city rather. There's a lot of shipping that goes through here, so you see a lot of big container ships and stuff. This area is also known for fugu, which is pufferfish, and we had a pufferfish dinner here. One thing I didn't know about pufferfish, I thought it's always dangerous to eat it because it's poisonous, but the poison is all in one part of the fish, like one little sac inside the fish, and the pufferfish meal that makes you numb and stuff, that's because the chef has been specially trained to cut that sac open and put a little bit of the poison on the fugu. But here they don't do that. It's just the fugu, but they prepare it in like 10 different ways. You get a soup, you get fried, you get sashimi, you get all these different things. So really, I really enjoyed this restaurant. And there's a lot of fugu restaurants throughout this town. So that's Shimonoseki. And then we just rode to Fukuoka. There's some nice riding in here as well if you stay off the highways. I don't remember the exact route, but it was somewhere along here. It was some of my favorite riding of the trip as well. And Fukuoka, I don't know too much about it. I've only spent like 1 or 2 full days here. But it's the biggest city on Kyushu, which is the southern big island of Japan. And I think it's the end of the Shinkansen. There might be another one that extends, but the Shinkansen lines that go to like Tokyo, they end in Fukuoka. So that is the routes. One other thing I want to say is about off-roading, like riding off-road in Japan. So I asked my tour guides about this. Apparently you can ride off-road. The problem as a tourist is that there aren't any rental agencies that will rent to you to ride off-road because people blow up the bikes so much. But actually my guides want to open a tour company to do like day rentals and day trip motorcycle rentals for off-road. Car rentals also very easy. You need the international permit, same thing, but you can rent cars pretty cheap and take them all over Japan. So car rentals is also a cool thing to do in Japan. There are drift schools too if you're into drifting. I haven't done this yet, but I would like to. It's not cheap. Like you're going to spend a couple $1,000s and rip through a set of tires, but there are places where you can go and drift Japanese cars. So that's pretty sweet. So yeah, I'm just looking at my notes. I think that's pretty much everything. Whether you're going to Japan by motorcycle or you want to take the trains and walk or you want to rent a car, I think the tips in here are going to be relevant to you. So if you like this video, like it, comment, let me know like what you want to learn about Japan. I have a ton more knowledge and experience that I didn't share in this video. So if you have other questions, leave them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them or tag someone who I think might have more insight. But overall, just don't sleep on the opportunity to go to Japan. I know especially for Westerners, it's very far, but Japan is such a unique and interesting place, especially outside of the major cities. The major cities are cool and there's a lot to see in Tokyo and Kyoto and Osaka. But if you are going to rent a car or take a motorcycle, you are going to see things that 99% of tourists never get to see or know about. And you're really going to see a side of Japan that you didn't know was there. So highly recommend riding in Japan, traveling to Japan. And again, drop a comment if you got any questions. Cool. Thank you.